Thanks very much, Chair. Mr. Collins, why did you tell the Oireachtas last week that there was only one barter account?
I told the reason for that is because there is one barter account. There's 3 companies feeding into that barter account, but what I look at is a consolidated view there. So, for instance, if someone was to ask you what your weekly shopping bill is, and you said it's €200, you wouldn't respond to them and say, look, €70, my weekly shopping bill is €70 with Dunn's, €70 with SuperValu, €60 with Lidl. You would say your weekly shopping bill is
So you stand over the
200.
answer you provided last week, so?
I'm saying that there is one barter account in terms of how it's looked at financially, but there are 3 companies feed into it. And what I would say is that everything is disclosed, all the transactions, there's nothing new here. They're all treated in the same way, the 3 companies. Everything was brought onto the balance sheet together.
When I got this earlier, I had to go looking around Leinster House to get a printer big enough to print off the stuff because it was too small there's too much stuff for A4 pages. So these are all the, some of the stuff that was spent, right? And just for the people watching, you won't be able to see this now, but just go through a few of them. So this is 2016, RT agency and client summer party, venue catering and drinks, €20,900. That doesn't come under the categories that were just referred to there by the former CFO. Again, we're looking at 2017 here, agency breakfast and lunch series, 4 days with clients, agencies and presenters, €13,388. God only knows what they were eating over 4 days, but that's a hell of a bill. Bruce Springsteen concerts, €12,000. That's 2016, it looks like. Head of sales, client agency, golf outing, jackets, golf balls, €7,500. Phil Collins and Robbie Williams, Aviva Stadium, 50 tickets, €6,358. I've heard of let me entertain you, but that's a bit ridiculous. And then 200 units of flip-flops for the summer party for agencies and clients, €4,956. So 200 pairs of flip-flops at €34 each. This is what's going through this account. This isn't the barter account, this is a slush fund. And all of these entries ask more questions of RT. Who was benefiting? Who knew what? Why wasn't this showing up? Could I ask the former chairperson, when this was transferred to the balance sheet back in 2020, you were chair at the time, did this come up with the board?
No, we were not aware of the existence of the barter account. And I have checked back with my colleagues, 2 of my former colleagues on the board, 2 of whom were accountants. One was the former CFO of the Economist Group in the UK, and I contacted him this week and asked him if he knew anything of these activities, and he replied no.
So, on one hand, we're being told that barter accounts are a normal part of a media organisation, and on the other hand, the chairperson doesn't know that there's a barter account in the organisation.
That's correct.
And do you think you should have known?
I think I should have been informed, and I think all my colleagues on the board should have been informed. And this should have been highlighted to us.
But what I'm sensing from you is that, you're waiting there to be informed of all these things. As a board, is your job not to scrutinise what's going on in the organisation as well? Do you think you didn't scrutinise enough, you didn't keep a close enough eye on what was going on?
I think a board has 3 ways of gaining oversight for information. One is information that is given directly by managers and executives. The second is the audited accounts. And the third possibility is being told something off the record.
In that regard, you were the chair of the Remuneration Committee, isn't that right?
That's correct.
Why did it only meet once per annum in the crucial period from 2018 to 2023?
It met, I don't have the details of the meetings for that period.
Well, I'll tell you now, it met once in 2018, once in 2019. It didn't meet at all in 2020, that's fair enough. 2021, once. And 2022, it didn't meet at all. I understand that it met once so far in 2023.
Yes,
but for your relevant period, where you're there, 18, 19 in particular, I'm looking at, why did it go from 3 meetings in 2017 down to 1? And then at the same time, you had the Audit and Risk Committee meeting and the Programmes Committee meeting between 4 and 7 times.
Yes, that is correct. And in my role as chair of the Remuneration Committee, I was in constant contact with the Director General and others about issues to do with contracts. I myself was out of operation for 6 months in the latter part of 19. and I think then the deputy chair took that meeting.
Yeah, but just in that time, you were able to attend 6 out of 8 full board meetings in 2018, 5 out of 8 in 19, 6 out of 8 in 2020, and 8 out of 9 in 2021. But the remuneration committee just seems to be way down the pecking order in terms of priority, and this is at a time when there are payments going out through the barter account. So, who else was on the committee with you?
I beg your pardon?
Who else was on that committee with you?
The chair of the Audit and Risk, Anne, and in advance of that, other board colleagues. They changed over the period.
Was the DG on that board?
No, the DG would be invited to the board for conversation or would raise information as required.
Will you furnish the committee with all of the minutes of those meetings, please?
Absolutely.
I think that's important. We would have that. And actually, writing in the Sunday Independent last week, Shane Ross, the journalist, raised a number of issues in relation to the importance of that committee and why it wasn't meeting at that crucial time, and those questions need to be answered. Could I just ask, in relation to Toy Show, the musical, 2.2 million lost? That's, I was roughly calculating this morning, that's the TV licence fee from every household in the town of Tralee and every household in the town of Killarney. And then you still go on to say you're proud of the achievement. If that's what you're proud of in RTE, I mean, we might as well all pack up and go home. How can you justify 2.2 million of a loss and stand over it as that you're proud of it? That's an enormous loss. It's a disgrace, it's a scandal.
We took a creative and commercial risk to try and, for the best of reasons, to try create something unique for Irish families and for children at Christmas.
It was unique, all right, certainly.
The show was, if I'm not sure was anyone here at the show, but those who attended it absolutely loved it, particularly children. It clearly wasn't a commercial success, but it wasn't from a lack of effort from everyone involved. We did a huge amount of work trying to model what.
How was it paid for? How was it, the losses, how were they paid for?
I paid from RT funds.
Oh, is it the central fund?
Yeah.
Okay. And could I just ask as well, did anybody advise along the way that this wasn't a good idea?
We had a lot of advice from people in theatre and musical theatre, specialists who had produced very significant productions in the past.
Did anyone advise that it wasn't a good idea, though?
No, I mean, we were aware of the risks, but the...
Did anyone ask? Did anyone say, stop, this isn't a good idea?
No.
No, all right. And just the advertising, I was looking through the accounts earlier, and there's the amount, I mean, I remember my head was wrecked every commercial break. The ad for the Toy Show, the musical, was on last autumn. So it took up an awful lot of airtime. Can I ask, were the ads free from RT for advertising this, or were their earnings foregone by the station because of the displacement factor, because this was being advertised so heavily?
RT has promotional airtime, which is non-commercial airtime, to promote its own services, its own programs, and so it's not. It doesn't come out of commercial airtime. There was no
commercial airtime taken up by the ads for this. So you're telling me?
No, we bought commercial airtime on non-RT stations, but the RT airtime it comes from promotional airtime, which is where we promote our programs, our services, like the concert orchestra, like sporting events, etc.
Okay. When I looked into the funding models, I was looking at, one particular programme, the movie show, Mr. Lynch, I think you were a producer of back in 2012. Would you class that as an AFP?
Correct. It's PPS, Production Support.
Yeah, and it was money from Ford that was used there. Did you bring the money from Ford to RTE first, or did you pitch the programme first and then go off and find Ford?
To my memory, we pitched the programme, and then I think it was through Ogilvy and Mather at the time.
Are you sure now that's the order of events?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Will you find out and come back to me?
Absolutely.
Would you stand over today the commissioning of that show and the way it was done?
Yes, I would.
Do you not think that editorial input by an advertiser is compromising your mission statement as an organisation?
There was no editorial input from the advertiser.
Can you confirm that? Can you come back to us?
I can confirm that here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
you might provide the documentation.
And come back to you, absolutely. Yeah.
Could I ask then, should RTE stars be benefiting from private podcasts, for example, that are actually acting as competition to RTE? Does anyone have an opinion on that? Because there are an awful lot of them out there. They're being paid by RTE, but they also have their own private podcasts and they're making money out of it. Is that not, is there going to be a review of what, are people conflicted?
To be clear, so if it's an RT staff member, anyone who's an RT staff member in terms of the employee guidelines would have to seek permission to do any commercial activity outside of their job, and that would have to be
Can you confirm
approved.
so that all of those podcasts are being, that there's permission for those people to do that? Because there seems to be a history of blurred lines in RT. Mr. RT, you'd be very much aware that, a concern in relation to the overlap between RT and Riverdance in the past, which you did very well out of as well. But does RT now need to seriously look at itself in relation to clearly drawing a line between RT employees and what they do in their own private time in terms of earnings?
Deputy, I believe that there is need for a debate on the tension between commercial and public service.
Do you believe you were conflicted in the past?
Time.
Do you believe you were conflicted in the past?
Absolutely
your role
not.
in Riverdance?
Absolutely not.
You don't think that others might look at it and say that that doesn't look right?
Everything that I did in my negotiations with RT, if you're going back to 1994, there was no conflict.
Could I just ask, would you just plainly, somebody please explain, did Ryan Tubridy actually refuse to take a pay cut? Could you just clarify that? Did he say, no, I'm not taking a cut?
Well, can I just answer there as part of the...
Or his agent on his behalf?
During my negotiations up to March 2020, they didn't refuse to take a cut. It was the level of cut that we disagreed on.
Okay.
So there was a cut, and I can't recall the level of service fees as per my statement, but we were, when I left RTE, the level of fees that we were discussing were lower than he was earning under his contract. So he wasn't rejecting.
Okay. And who else here was aware of the 2020 letter, the July 2020 letter, guaranteeing that there'd be no fee reductions? Remember now, the country was in an awful state at that stage. Businesses were shut down, hadn't reopened. There was huge uncertainty. And who thought that this was okay to go out and to be signed? Who here?
I was aware of that.
You were aware of it?
Yeah.
And did you not think it was not a great idea?
My understanding was that his salary was to be reduced, and then within that there was a guarantee, but I didn't see the side letter. I was aware there was a side letter, a commercial agreement and a substantive contract, but I didn't know what the wording was around that in terms of any contingencies that would be put in.
It wasn't a great bit of business now, and a lot of people are very angry about it. And at the time, there was huge uncertainty. You knew about it as well, Mr. Collins, yeah?
At a meeting I attended on the 30th of April, it was discussed and it was proposed at that meeting that there'd be wording put into it that if obviously COVID was in progress at that stage, nobody knew how bad it was going to get, but it was proposed that it would be put into the letter that in the event of the crisis continuing.
That somehow got out of the letter. It escaped. That somehow escaped the page.
It did, yeah. Well, I never saw the final letter, but that was the last discussion that I was aware of.
Just to conclude then as well, when RT executives took pay cuts some time ago, car allowances were introduced in lieu, is that right? No? Is anyone here in receipt of the car allowance?
Yes, I am.
You are, yeah. And was that introduced at the time after you took pay cuts? Or
I
after
joined
taking pay cuts?
RTE 7.5 years ago, and as part of my contract there was a car allowance.
And I take it everyone has a car that has the car allowance, do they?
Yes.
Yeah. Are there people in the organisation who don't have a car or availing of the car allowance? Is it vouched?
So in terms of all of that, and we'll get onto it later, in terms of RT personnel commercially benefiting from anything, as I said,
Will you give us details of who's in receipt of it? And
Yes, 100%.
also as well if it's vouched.
We have a lot of the detail. There was a lot of incoming to our DPO in terms of releasing information with personal names in it, but we're doing a forensic tour of the entire organisation to establish that.
Thank you. Thanks.